All right, here we are. We are just about probably 2 more videos. Okay, so we're talking about function operations now. So remember, we have 2 functions and we're going to do some operations with them. So our different operations that we have addition, we have subtraction, we have multiplication. We do have division. We're not going to see that on this study guide and honestly not on the test. I probably shouldn't tell you that because I want you to study it. But so we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then composition. And that's what you made your meme about, remember? So it's putting one function inside of another function. So first we have these 2 functions here, f of x and g of x. So I'm just going to highlight these in certain colors so we can kind of think about this. Okay, so the first thing we have is f plus g of x, which just means add f of x to g of x. So we're going to have 3x squared plus 5x plus 1 plus 2x minus 1. So then we combine things that are the same. So we have 3x squared plus 7x plus 1 minus 1 is 0. Oh, that's that one. All right, the next one is g of x minus f of x. So we take 2x minus 1 and we subtract. Now remember, we're subtracting the whole function f of x, right? Not just the 3x squared, we're subtracting the whole thing. So we're going to subtract 3x squared plus 5x plus 1. So when we simplify this, we're going to end up with 2x minus 1 minus 3x squared minus 5x minus 1, right? Because you're subtracting every single thing in f of x. Now combine things that are the same. We end up with negative 3x squared minus 3x minus 2. All right, I'm going to have to erase that so I have a little more space. All right, the next one is g of x times f of x. So we have 3x squared plus 5x plus 1 times 2x minus 1. And since this is multiplying, you could use some of our tools. Remember, we have tools where you could say like multiply each of these by each of these. So you do 3x squared times 2x, 3x squared times negative 1, 5x times 2x, 5x times negative 1. That's the distributive property right there. But we can use the box to make it easier so our distributive property is more obvious. So let's see, here we have 6x cubed, that's 10x squared, 2x, that's negative 3x squared, negative 5x, and negative 1. So do you see how much simpler it is just because it's kind of all right there? I feel like it's easier to keep track of, and then it's easier to add things up because they're more organized. So in the end, we have 6x cubed plus 7x squared minus 3x minus 1. All right, the next ones we have are compositions. So we're going to do, let's see, g of f of x means we take f and put it inside g. Okay, so I'm going to start with my outside function. G is 2 times x minus 1, right? And where that x is where I'm going to put f, right? F goes inside of g instead of x. 3x squared plus 5x plus 1. So in the end, we end up with 6x squared plus 10x plus 2 minus 1. And then we just combine things that are the same, so it's 6x squared plus 10x plus 1. All right, and the last but not least one on this one is f of g of x. So again, this means we're putting g inside of f. Okay, so f is 3 times something squared plus 5 times something plus 1. Okay, and everywhere there was an x in f, we're going to put in g of x. So it's 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 1. Okay, so now remember, this is what you're going to want to do. Don't do it. You're going to take this 3 and you're going to want to distribute it. But remember, exponents take priority, right? Exponents happen before we multiply. So you can't do this multiplication until you've taken care of that exponent. So that's going to end up 3 times 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. And then we can multiply that 5 in because there's no exponent. So 10x minus 5 plus 1. And so that ends up 12x squared minus 12x plus 3 plus 10x minus 5 plus 1. And then we're going to combine things that are the same. So our 12x squared doesn't have any friends, but our negative 12x and positive 10x, so it gives us negative 2x. And then 3 plus 1 is 4, minus 5 is negative 1. So there you go. All right, let's do some more function operations. So here's f of x and g of x. So again, this is f of x. This is g of x. So f plus g is going to be, let's see, f is 9x squared minus 1 plus the square root of x plus 1. And you know, really, those can't really combine at all because the square root of x plus 1 is like stuck inside of that square root. So that's it. That's the whole thing. And then we're going to see a similar thing with g minus f. You know, g is square root of x minus plus 1, excuse me, and then f, we subtract f, 9x squared, and remember we subtract everything, so we subtract negative 1, we get plus 1. But that's really all we can do there because the square root of x plus 1 is like stuck. Okay. So then we have g times f. So g is the square root of x plus 1, and f is 9x squared minus 1. And again, there's not much we can do there because, you know, the 9x squared isn't under square root. So there's really, that's it. That's the whole thing. You would just write it just like that. Okay, now this is where I think it's going to make the most sense that we use these equations. So we have g of f of x, right? So g is our outside function. G is our outside function, and we have x plus 1. And everywhere there was an x in g, we're going to put f. So that's 9x squared minus 1. And so when we simplify that, we get the square root of 9x squared minus 1 plus 1. And the square root of 9x squared is just 3x. So that's where these ones make a lot of sense because they're actually kind of like simplifying as you do composition. Okay, and then or f of g of x. So f is our outside function this time. So we have 9x squared minus 1, and everywhere there was an x, we're just going to put the square root of x plus 1. We're going to put g in where there was an x. Now, the square root of x plus 1 squared gives us just x plus 1 minus 1. So we get 9x plus 9 minus 1. And you might have thought, ooh, I can do that plus 1 minus 1 first, but remember that multiplication takes precedence over addition and subtraction. And so then we have 9x plus 8. All right, here's another one with some function operations. So there's f of x, there's g of x. So give each of the following: f plus g, so we have x squared plus 8x plus 3 plus negative x minus 7. So in the end, we end up with x squared plus 8x plus 3 minus x minus 7. So that's x squared plus 7x minus 4. So we just combine things that are the same. Okay, our next one is g minus f. So g is negative x minus 7. And we're going to subtract all of f, right? We're going to subtract everything inside of f. So we have negative x minus 7 minus x squared minus 8x minus 3 because we're subtracting everything in f. So in the end, we have negative x, let's see, negative x and negative 8x. We'll do negative x squared minus 9x minus 10. Just combining things that are the same. Okay, the next one is multiplying, so I'm going to go ahead and use the box because we're multiplying polynomials. That's the easiest way. And then we just draw our box out. Negative x minus 7. And this also makes it easier to keep track of all the negatives and make sure everything is just taken care of. So we have negative x cubed, negative 8x squared, negative 3x, negative 7x squared, negative 56x, negative 21. So then we would just add all those together. We have negative x cubed minus 15x squared minus 59x minus 21. So it's kind of long and a little bit icky looking, but really it's not so bad, right? Because the box makes it pretty easy. All right, let's do our composition. We just go ahead and I'll erase all that so we can do composition. Okay, so the first one is g of f of x. Remember, so g is our outside function, and f is our inside function. Okay, and so we end up with negative x squared minus 8x minus 3 minus 7. Because see this negative sign outside, this means we're multiplying by negative 1, right? So it's no different than if it was negative 2 or negative 5, and it distributes in to each of them, right? So the negative sign distributes to each of them, and we end up with negative x squared. Oh, that went nuts. Negative x squared minus 8x minus 10. Okay, and finally we have f of g of x, which remember, f is our outside function, and we're putting g inside of f. Okay, so f is something squared plus 8 times something plus 3, and then we put g inside of there, so it's negative x minus 7, and that is negative x minus 7. So when we square negative x minus 7, let's go ahead and do the box for that. I think we have just a few minutes, so we have enough time to look at this. So negative x minus 7, negative x minus 7. So when you have all these extra negative signs, it's just sometimes good to not try to do it all in your head. So this becomes x squared, that becomes 7x, that becomes 7x, and that's 49. So we're going to have x squared plus 14x plus 49 plus, that's going to be minus 8x minus 56 plus 3. So that's just multiplying everything out. And then we're going to combine everything that's the same. So we end up with x squared plus 6x. And then we have negative 56 and positive 49 is negative 7. And positive 3 is negative 4. There you go. Not too bad. All right, I think that's all for this video, and then we're going to just talk about inverses.